What's up, everybody? Welcome into Group Chat Football. This is Group Chat Sports. Hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy this content. This is our daily college football show talking the biggest storylines in the sport, transfer news, recruiting news, coaching movement, and much, much more. Today, we're going to talk about a program in the Tennessee Volunteers that have not really had an issue acquiring talent, but Coach Heupel continues to bring it. And we're going to talk about a couple transfers, some guys in the recruiting side as well. And this is not always necessarily the highest rated guys, but with Tennessee, we got to start with a 5-star, with a guy who was almost a consensus top 10 player in the country, and that's David Sanders Jr.
Yeah, look, start right at the top. This is a team, when you talk about need, offensive line, you lose 4, and the right tackle spot is wide open for starters. Right tackle spot wide open. Number 6 overall player in the composite, David Sanders, 6'6", 290. Ohio State made a big run at David Sanders, almost flipped him, ends up staying with the Volunteers, and it is huge because, like I said, that right tackle spot could be his. Needs to gain some weight and get stronger, but you look at the athleticism, the explosive power when he locks in. This is someone who has competed in throwing events. You talk about 53 and 3.5 inches in the shot put, 143 and 1 in the discus, 2-time state qualifier, played basketball, two-way player, 32 pressures, 24 tackles, 7 sacks. The athleticism is all over the place. Look at his weight room numbers: 350-pound bench press, 370-pound power clean, 505-pound back squat. This is a guy with just a lot of tools, a lot of coordination. Like I said, a lot of power and weight room strength. Just needs to add a little more mass. If I compare him to the other guys at his recruitment level, Francis Malinois started as a true freshman at right tackle, as freshman All-America. Jordan Seaton started at left tackle, freshman All-America. So I think expecting Sanders to get that starting job, and he'll certainly have ups and downs in the SEC, but to play and show his talent, I don't think is out of line given where he's ranked and what he showed at the high school level.
Yeah, you look at the movement ability and the frame, he really shouldn't have too much of an issue putting that weight on it. Just such an easy mover at that size. And he's nasty too. You see him finishing here. He's not, although he does need to put a little bit of weight on, that's not really something that you're too concerned about. I don't think if you're a Tennessee fan, you see the nastiness, which sometimes with these high-rated linemen who look pretty, you're like, man, are they bringing it snap in, snap out? And that's definitely what he's doing.
Yeah, no question. He's got the intangibles. I mean, this day and age, it's hard to be a 5-star player without the intangibles. There's so many evaluation points to get to know about these guys that if something's not right, usually get dinged. That's why when you look at the first round of the NFL draft, right? How many of these offensive linemen and defensive linemen were 5-star, high 4-stars out of high school? It's hard to miss on a guy like this. Again, you talk about the athleticism markers, whether it's track, whether it's playing basketball, whether it's playing both ways, the weight room stuff, the length, which is there. All you need is just the size to get over 300 pounds. That's one thing I would say with Malinois and Seaton. They just had a little more mass to him to play early, but he's here. He's at Tennessee already. I think was already 19 miles per hour on the GPS. So he's somebody who Vols fans should be very, very excited about. Major need, but you acquired a talented player. You held off the national champion Buckeyes for what should be a year 1 starter.
Keeping it with the incoming recruiting class here, we'll go to the other side of the ball, keeping it in the trenches, and that is freshman defensive lineman Isaiah Campbell. Talk about a guy who just looks like an SEC defensive lineman, listed as 6'4", 280. And when I pull up his tape here, like you know who this guy is on every single play. He sticks out. It looks like he's going to be able to put even more weight on that frame with ease, I would say. And the motor, man, that's the other thing that sticks out. There's someone who's playing some edge, maybe projects as an interior lineman. I would say probably projects as a defensive tackle just because of that big frame of his. And it's going to be hard to keep him any leaner for the edge there. So as I pull up his tape here, Isaiah Campbell, big pickup here for Tennessee.
Yeah, the Volunteers are really killing the state of North Carolina. You talk about David Sanders from Charlotte, Isaiah Campbell from Durham. when I see this guy, the comparison that comes to mind, you mentioned SEC defensive lineman. He reminds me of an ACC defensive lineman, which is Christian Wilkins. Maybe it's just a number 42, but you look at Christian Wilkins when he was a recruit. He was a number 6 defensive tackle in the country, 6'4", 290. Look at Campbell when he was a recruit last year, number 6 defensive tackle in the country, just like Wilkins, 6'4", 280. So aside from 10 pounds of listed weight, pretty much identical. Again, same number, former Clemson commit, Isaiah Campbell. So again, maybe those are some superficial reasons for the comparison, but I think they play very similar versatility, athleticism, high motor. Hearing some of the early reports from folks in Tennessee, I believe they spoke to Steve Wiltfong about some of their early entries, and they mentioned Isaiah Campbell's done some really, really good stuff. Also mentioned that David Sanders' athleticism stood out, so someone we just talked about. So those are the early reports from Steve Wiltfong and On3 talking to Tennessee people. But Campbell's a guy, he also is a shot putter and discus thrower. He lists a 4.69 40 on his huddle. If that's anywhere accurate, this guy's going to be a monster tester. But you see, just watching him, his ability to stand up as really a defensive tackle body type, to run plays down like he's doing here, to tackle in space. Unique athlete at that size.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The ability for him that he's showing playing in space. And look, it's easy if you're his high school coach to just say, let me just put him on the inside. And you see it here. He's still doing work on the inside. But for them to say, let's play him on that edge a little bit and let him play with some more of these athletic guys out there. I mean, that just goes to show you the sort of athlete he is.
Yeah, no question. It's not just the speed and size, it's the fluidity, the change of direction. All those things very encouraging when you look at Campbell. And look, he's a number 6 defensive tackle in the country for a reason. These are the guys that are pretty easy to evaluate, in my opinion. You look at, I mentioned the NFL draft, go just up and down the list. You're going to see a lot of 4 stars, a lot of 5 stars, a lot of big schools. That's because it's hard to get guys like this in the portal. It's hard to get guys like this, as sleepers. They're pretty easy to spot, and you just got to win recruiting battles. This was a huge recruiting battle win over Clemson for Tennessee and Coach Heupel.
So we have one more high school guy to get to, but we'll keep him for the end here. And we'll get to a couple transfer offensive linemen that we expect to slot in to starting spots for the Volunteers. Starting with Sam Pendleton, transfer from Notre Dame, started 7 games for them this season, one of the best offensive lines in the country. And look, this is a guy who has big-time experience. Again, we mentioned at a program that had one of the best offensive lines in the country. They played the game a certain way, and I would expect for him to bring that sort of edge to this offensive line.
Yeah, Notre Dame really had some interesting kind of musical chairs going on at the offensive line position. We've talked about in other videos, right? Because you just had guys get injured, guys win jobs, guys lose jobs. You had young players emerge. And ultimately what ended up happening is you had Sam Pendleton, who played 492 snaps on a national championship finalist, not finish the season as a starter. You had Rocco Spindler, who did finish the season as a starter at left guard, transfer and go to Nebraska. You had Coogan, I think it was originally, I think he started right guard the year before, but certainly a starting guard the year before. Moves to backup center, ends up being the starting center, transfers to Indiana. So there's been a lot of musical chairs with Notre Dame's offensive line because they have too many good players. But this is one of them. 3 years of eligibility as a redshirt freshman last year. Kind of a surprise to win that starting job, beating out Spindler at left guard. When Billy Schroth came back from an ankle injury, kind of pushed Pendleton back to the bench. But there's a starting caliber player, 492 snaps. We mentioned earlier, Tennessee loses 4 starting offensive linemen. Yes, you're recruiting a guy like David Sanders, but you need experience. You need toughness. 6'4", 310. Pendleton's a brawler. He can bend a little bit. Played left guard for Notre Dame, probably played right guard for Tennessee. And another guy from North Carolina, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, coming back to the South from Notre Dame. So North Carolina continues to be a very, very good state for Tennessee, especially with all the turnover you have at North Carolina, Clemson not being what it was down there in South Carolina. I think it's a wide open territory, and a brand like Tennessee, which is a national championship contender, and obviously not that far, you could really do damage in that state.
So the other transfer offensive lineman, this one from Arizona, I kept his name there, Sam Pendleton, but it's Wendell Moe from Arizona. So you're talking about a guy who was wanted by a lot of people. He was offered by a ton of programs coming out as a transfer here. and I think someone with still a good amount of upside. Only one career sack in over 1,000 snaps. So one career sack allowed in over 1,000 snaps as a guard. So impressive stat line right there.
Yeah, this is somebody, look, the length is not what you want, 6'2", but he's a legit 339. He actually looks good at 339. He doesn't look like, overly heavy or anything like that. He looks to me like a well-built 339 at 6'2", Polynesian descent, went to Long Beach Poly High School, in the LBC. He only allowed one career sack in 1,000 snaps, 27 starts, all Pac-12 second team selection 2023, played both guard spots this year. You lose Javonte Spraggins, Andre Carrack, Jackson Lampley. Also, Cooper May has gone at center. Does Moe play some center? I know he left the door open. Maybe with his length, that's ideal. I don't know if he has the athleticism there at 340, to move around enough to play that position. But maybe in a perfect world, he slides in at center and you have more length at guard. But most likely, he will be sort of your fire hydrant your fire hydrant guard. Who's going to be hard to get around because he's so wide and who really has a strong base, as you can see from his pass blocking stats.
Yeah, and as Pete Nakos said here as well, he was second team All Pac-12 in 2023. So this is a guy with some pedigree, so to speak, some accolades, but I think someone who, like we said, probably has some of his best football still in front of him. If he gets that body right, continues to drop a little bit of maybe some weight that he's holding on to, I think it'd go a long way for him in terms of his quickness against some of these guys he's going to be seeing in the SEC.
No question about it. This is a fast-paced offense. They do like to maul you and move you off the ball, but you got to move as well. And I think most certainly can do it well enough at guard. You've seen highlights of him pulling, knocking people out. Center might be a stretch at 340, but I wonder if we'll see a little preview of that in spring just to see if he can do it.
So the last high school recruit and the last player on this list here for 5 newcomers we are excited about for Tennessee Volunteers football. Again, Vols fans, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this sort of content. We haven't talked about your program enough here on Group Chat Sports, so looking forward to following you guys closely here over the spring and looking at some of the battles. But this guy here, we all know Coach Heupel loves his quarterbacks, one of the best coaches for that position in the country, one of the best offenses for that position. If you're a quarterback, it's fun to play in. And that's George MacIntyre, someone who, as we pull up the tape here in just a second, the first thing that immediately jumps out to me is that arm, man. I mean, he can really sling it. That deep ball is beautiful. One of the best deep balls I've seen from a high school quarterback this year. Quick release and just, I mean, it's an effortless deep ball, man. I mean, you see the athleticism of a 6'5" basketball player as well, and someone who you get him here with Heupel, and I think that's a scary combination 2-3 years down the road.
It made more of a developmental player, but listen, if everything goes well, and it's not saying he's going to be like this, but if everything goes well, and Pete, you'll pull up the highlights here.
Yep.
The guy that, if it all comes together, who he could look like, and this is just, again, this is going off physical traits. You don't know how they're actually going to play and process and compete and work and all those things. This is just body type, physical tools, movement. Justin Herbert. That's kind of the vibe I get from the way this guy moves, is a Justin Herbert type athlete at 6'6". We'll watch the basketball highlights, Pete, in a second, which I sent to you. But I mean, like you said, the arm downfield is there, but really the basketball shows up not just in the 6'6" height, but some of the fluidity and smoothness of how he goes about his business.
Yeah, I mean, it's a rocket launcher. I'm excited about this guy's potentials. I'll pull up his basketball stuff here in a second, but if you're Heupel, you got to be pumped up to be able to get this guy in your system. And like you said, finished product, nowhere near it. None of these high school kids are, but the traits jump out on this tape.
And Nico was not that much different, right? As far as being twitchy, smooth, taller guy, big arm. I can see some similarities there. Nico more of a volleyball player, whereas MacIntyre is really a basketball player with a huge football pedigree. Talk about his father and grandfather both being head coaches at the college.
His uncle.
Sorry, his uncle. His uncle and his grandfather both being coaches at the college level. So you see the Patrick Mahomes flip there. So he has the football pedigree, but I think the multi-sport background. Look at this right here, 6'6". I mean, it's hard to get out of that predicament when you're 6'6". Now as you get out, look at that, he gets out again, and then he unleashes a throw and gets a big chunk play. I mean, the athleticism on that play for a 6'6" player. I don't care who your competition is. Just being able to keep your balance and make that play.
The coordination. Yeah, it's the coordination is what it is, because a lot of these guys who at this age it's very tough to control those long limbs. They don't have the core strength for it. That, they just aren't strong enough overall. And look, he still needs to put some weight on. I think after basketball, it'll probably help him as I pull up his basketball stuff here. But no, man, I think it should be a pretty easy process for him. And this is a double for him in this game here. So
yeah, look, he does need to gain some weight. I watched him in that Polynesian Bowl. He's definitely skinny, but you saw that talent just like you see it in his highlights at that Polynesian Bowl. Just needs to put on some weight. He's going to get even stronger, more athletic, and then more powerful with that arm. But I think the fluidity and the height, obviously, those are things that you can't really coach. And
there it is. There's the athleticism. There's that second jump. Yeah, that was nice. And look, this is the title. This is double. So, and look, you see the shot there. Obviously, we're looking at him athletically here. We aren't judging him from a basketball standpoint. But
as I understood, he had some offers. Some
yeah, he had I saw. I believe Arizona State was one that he had early on. But yeah, 14 points and 13 rebounds. But yeah, the point for us showing that is to show you the sort of athlete this guy is.
Absolutely. No, excited about him in this offense. He's not, some of the other guys you mentioned are going to make an earlier impact, right? He's going to be a slower burn when you're talking about a guy who's coming from Brentwood, Tennessee, not necessarily the absolute best competition that he's going to face at the SEC level. And someone who he doesn't need to play right away because you got Nico. He's going to have a chance to win that that number 2 job. We'll see if he can do that in camp. That's going to be an interesting battle there. See if he can get that done. He'll have an opportunity. Jake Merklinger is the backup. Gaston Moore hit the portal, so he's going to have a chance to compete for that job. But I think overall, he's a guy that you store away, and in 2 years, with some weight, with some command of this offense, which is a unique offense, but a quarterback-friendly offense, I think you'll see a really, really talented player.
Some high-end talent on its way to Knoxville for next season. Excited about this group of players. For the Volunteers, again, Tennessee fans, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. We'll see you guys soon. Appreciate you watching this video.